Live from New York, this is the Harvey Hour. My name is Stephen Harvey. It's great to have you in on a Friday. As always, I'm joined alongside my dad, Stephen Harvey. How you doing today on this Friday?
I'm great. Beautiful day today, and it's Friday. Hooray.
Yeah, we got a good show planned for you today. A lot of news, NBA draft. I believe it was last night, the round 2 of it. It was last night, the night before. Bronny James did get selected by the Los Angeles Lakers. We'll talk about that later on in the show. But let's talk about our first topic of today's show, which is talking about Julian Edelman, Rob Gronkowski, Gerard Mayo, and the New England Patriots. Because Rob Gronkowski went on Julian Edelman's podcast, Games with Names, and he had very high praises for the first-time head coach of the New England Patriots, Gerard Mayo. Take a listen to what he had to say on the Games with Names podcast.
Gerard Mayo was a phenomenon on the football field with lining everyone up, and then also in the meeting rooms as well. He knew where every player needed to be during any situation that occurred on the defensive side of the ball. I mean, he knew how to read offenses. He knew when to call out plays, and he was always correct when he called a play out, or else he was just making the whole defense just aware when that play was going to be called, that they all were looking out for, or what type of run was going to be run, on the offense side of the ball. He was just always alert, and you could always tell that that was going to translate into the next phase of his life, because it's not all about how physical you are on the field, how talented you are. If you know where to be on the football field, that can make you a better player because you're already in position to make the play. Gerard Mayo was the Tom Brady on the defensive side of the ball, getting everyone lined up.
I want to know, do you believe that Gerard Mayo is the key to bring the Patriots back to relevancy after Bill Belichick got booted out of there by Robert Kraft?
Gerard Mayo is the Tom Brady on defense. That's a pretty high compliment coming from somebody like Gronk, who was one of the greatest tight ends of all time. We didn't hear much from Julian Edelman there, but he did say, and Julian Edelman played defense, remember, back 2011. He was in there on defense for some plays. He said that he always went and checked with Gerard Mayo to make sure he was in the right spot. And he was never confident unless Mayo told him, yep, you're in the right spot. Everything's cool. So those are really high compliments. I think those who know him as a player, as an assistant coach, agree that he was a good choice for head coach. A lot of other people were very skeptical about him being chosen to be head coach of the Patriots, particularly following a legend like Bill Belichick, who admittedly didn't have a very good year last year and hasn't been pretty spotty since Tom Brady retired, given that he's a defensive coach. And it's interesting, Gerard Mayo is a defensive coach, right? I mean, he's focused on defense. He's not an offensive coach. And it's a little surprising, given that most of the criticism of the Patriots and Bill Belichick was that he focused all on the defense. He didn't draft good offensive players. He didn't have a great scheme for the offense. After Josh McDaniel left, he brought defensive coach in there to be the offensive coordinator, and that didn't go well. And so I think it's a little surprising that the Patriots went for another defensive coach, but they had this in the works for several years. Mayo came back to them after 3 years of retirement to be an inside linebackers coach. And after 5 years, apparently they knew they wanted him to be Belichick's successor. So I'll have more to say on this, but I'm anxious to hear your view on it.
I think it's a little bit crazy to call him the Tom Brady of the defensive side of the ball, although I do think Gerard Mayo was a very, very good player when he did play for the New England Patriots, and he was a very, very valuable piece to the New England Patriots, so much so Belichick brought him back on the staff. So I think he had very high regard for the former linebacker. In his career, he had only 3 interceptions. However, he did have 802 tackles across not that many years, actually. He had about 7-8 years of playing time, so that's a lot of tackles per year. He also had 11 sacks over his career, but I think he also won Defensive Rookie of the Year in his first year, which is incredible. So I think to call him the Tom Brady of the defensive side is a bit rough, because I think we could all attest to, in today's game, it's not about defense. And that's something that I think the Patriots haven't fully grasped, and I think that was in large part due to the fact that they had Bill Belichick as their head coach. Now, this season, they did draft Drake May after getting rid of Mac Jones. but I think we could all acknowledge, as more reports come out about training camp, and as we've seen in some scouting reports and hearing stuff about how he's a project quarterback, it's not a great look for the fact that you have so many moving pieces, brand new quarterback, first-time head coach, brand new staff, sometimes brand new weapons as well. You have a couple new rookie receivers. To have everything so new, I don't think it'll work out that well. And on top of that, the schedule itself is incredibly difficult. They have one of the toughest schedules in the NFL, so much so that I thought worst case scenario, you go 3-14 with wins only over the Seahawks, the Titans, and then finally, week 15 at the Cardinals. Best case scenario, you go 6-11, which I am praying for. I think 6-11 is a blessing if you can get that, because it's the Patriots and the Jets, I thought they would split with the Patriots in week 8 against the Jets at home. So the 6-11 record for me, best case scenario, is week 2 against the Seahawks, week 8 against the Jets, week 9 against the Titans, 10 against the Bears, and then 13 against the Colts, and then finally wrap all that up with week 15 against the Cardinals. I think that's the best case scenario, but I think the over-under for the Patriots is at 4.5, the worst in the NFL, even below the Carolina Panthers, which at that point, that's just embarrassing through and through. If you somehow have the worst over-under record, and you're the New England Patriots, who, remember, 6 years ago, they won their 6th NFL title. 6th Super Bowl. And 6 years later, it's become absolute chaos.
Yeah.
It's been so many moving pieces.
It's disappointing for us diehard Patriots fans. We've been spoiled over many years, over a 20-year period when Brady and Belichick were there, along with many other very high-quality players. They spoiled us, and now we're suffering for it. I think it's going to be quite a long time in the darkness before you see the light with this team. I think that Mayo, if he really is the Tom Brady of the defense, and he can bring that kind of fire to the team, the way Brady did, to get people motivated and fired up and committed, and doing the things the Patriot way, then that will be a blessing, and that should help the team a lot. I think the perspective of the players, their motivation, the way they feel about the team, the way they're motivated is a big part of football. Generally, most of the players are quite talented, and many of them are smart. So I think the motivational element is a big part of winning, and if Mayo can bring that to the team, then that will be a very positive thing. I think. They say he's very cerebral, and that separates the good from the great. So his smarts helped him be a better player because he knew where he needed to be on the field. He was always in the position to make the play. Edelman, I mentioned, as Edelman played defense in 2011, he only felt comfortable in his role after verifying it with Mayo. He knew what I had to do, but I always asked Gerard for approval. If Mayo agreed, you knew it was going to be right. So they're very high on him, and they played with him, and they like him. They're friends, I'm sure. So they're going to be very positive. But I agree with you. The Patriots' schedule is one of the hardest in the NFL, and I see them. I'm looking at them. Maybe when I think originally I said 4 games. I think it's more like 2 now. As I look at it, they're not going to beat the Bengals at the Bengals. I mean, Joe Burrow is going to be back. He's on a mission this year, right? Because he got hurt last year and they didn't make the playoffs. So he's going to be on a mission. I think the Bengals are going to be very good this year. Maybe you think they might beat the Seahawks. I would say maybe yes. That's their first game at home, but that's only the second game of the season. If it was later in the season, maybe they would be gelled enough so that they might be able to beat the Seahawks, but they get many question marks. I mean, a new quarterback, lots of new players on offense. The defense probably will be solid. And Gerard Mayo is a defensive-minded coach and played very well on the defense, is highly respected. So I think the defense will be good. I think it will be low-scoring games if the Patriots are going to be in these games, but I don't think they're going to beat the Seahawks. I think the Jets are going to beat them. I think San Francisco definitely is going to beat them, and that's at San Francisco. Actually, it's at the Jets, too. I mean, they only have one game in the first 4 that's at home, and then they're playing Miami at home. I don't see them beating them. I don't see them beating the Texans. The Jaguars, I think, will be better this year, as principally if with Trevor Lawrence with his brand new contract, and if he's healthy, I think that the Jaguars will beat the Patriots. The Jets, again, I think they're going to be good this year with the defense, and if Aaron Rodgers comes back to be anything what he was before, he's going to be a big upgrade over Zach Wilson, how poorly he played last year. I do see them beating the Titans. I don't think the Titans are going to be very good this year. The Bears, we went through our big Bears analysis, and I got ripped so badly on it. I had the Bears beating them, so you can't argue with that, huh? And I still stand by that. The Rams are going to beat them. The Miami, I think will beat them twice.
Sweep, yep.
I think the Colts, that's the other win I think they might get, and that's at home. So I don't think the Colts are going to be very good this year. You think the Cardinals will? They could beat the Cardinals. I'm not so sure. They're at the Cardinals. I think the Cardinals will be better this year. They're going to have Marvin Harrison as a wideout, and they have Kyler Murray back as fully recovered from his knee injury. Buffalo's going to beat him twice for sure, unless Buffalo is either totally out of it at the end or they've won and they're not playing for anything. Maybe Buffalo will rest everybody, and that might be a close game at the end. And the Chargers, I think, will beat them. So
you have 2-15.
2-15, I think.
2-15.
And maybe 4-15 4 and 12, 4 and 13 if it's and that would be maybe they'll be competitive against the Cardinals, as you said, and maybe also against the Jaguars or the Bears.
Brutal.
I'm not sure. So I think it's going to be a long season for Patriots fans, but I'm still a fan. I still love the Patriots.
Well, the big question mark is the fact that you have a brand new rookie quarterback in Drake May. The problem with Drake May is that he doesn't have a lot of talent around him. Same problem Mac Jones had. Hell, it's the same problem Cam Newton had. And you know what? Let's be honest. It's the same problem Tom Brady had in 2019. He did not have enough talent. Julian Edelman was broken. He had N'Keal Harry as his next wide receiver. Horrible draft choice. He had basically nobody to help him whatsoever.
The wide receiver they drafted, what's his name?
They drafted
a funny
two.
name, too.
Jalen Polk or
Jalen Polk.
And then they have Javon Baker as well. So
Jalen Polk, is he supposed to be really good? I mean, it sounds like another N'Keal Harry to me.
Nah, Washington, I think he did a phenomenal job there, or at least good as he possibly could. The problem with what we've heard out of OTAs and training camp so far, or mini camp, I should say, is Demario Douglas was the best wide receiver. He's a 5'8" slot guy, and he's your best receiver. That scares me. If no rookie is really outshining any veteran. As well as Kendrick Bourne not being the best receiver out there, who I thought should be the best receiver out there. That turns out not to be the case. And it looks like the starting tackle, Chukwuma Okorafor, he couldn't even stay as the starting right tackle for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And he's going to be your starting left tackle? That's what I mean. The offensive line may have gotten worse when you lost Trent Brown, and I didn't think very highly of Trent Brown his last year with New England.
Yeah.
So if it's just going to get worse with an offensive line, then you might be starting Jacoby Brissett, and let's actually bring up the quarterback ratings here. CBS Sports, when they did their power rankings, didn't even list Drake May as a starting quarterback for the Patriots, have Jacoby Brissett, who is in line at number 27, by the way. Jacoby Brissett is in line to be the Patriots starting quarterback. And you know what's funny is they're like, oh yeah, he needs a lot of work, a lot of reps, a lot of training, veteran leadership. Are we sure that Jacoby Brissett is the right quarterback to give him that veteran leadership and that veteran experience? Jacoby Brissett hasn't really won much.
He's been kind of a journeyman quarterback.
Did he help Sam Howell at all? I don't think so.
He actually outshined him at the end of the season when they put him in there.
Exactly. So I don't think it's a perfect situation. I don't think it's a good situation because I think the Patriots' problems that were there 4 years ago, 5 years ago, are still present today. And I think that'll take a lot of time. Now, the Patriots did draft mainly offensive players in this draft, which I think is smart. We'll have to see how Baker and Polk do this upcoming season. But the stuff we're hearing out of training camp is your rookie quarterback needs a lot of work. Gerard Mayo even said that. Your offensive weapons, based on day one OTAs, still can't separate, and you got rid of the worst separating receiver in the past 3 seasons.
Parker.
In Devontae Parker. So the problems that were there for the Patriots for basically half a decade are still there today. And that's what I'm fearing the most. They're not willing to make the big moves or have the capital, because you want to keep that defense together. I think the defense will remain consistent. But offensively, unless you want to add a defensive piece in a trade situation, your offense isn't going to get any better because you don't have any star offensive weapon to be like, he's a great trade asset, like the Bengals do with T. Higgins, like the 49ers do with Brandon Ayuk or Deebo Samuel if they want to get off of one of those. You don't have that type of depth offensively to be like, we have a great trade piece that we could try to get a top-tier weapon with. You just don't have that.
The other factor is Mayo is a rookie head coach.
Right.
Look at the way he's treated May so far. He hasn't really said anything too positive about him. He's been very kind of lukewarm about him. It says he needs a lot of work. Unlike a coach like Sean Payton, who has been effusive praise for Bo Nix, saying he looks like a golfer out there.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what kind of compliment that is, actually. He looked like a golfer out there.
Calculated,
and he said they were, what did he call them? He called them
orphan dogs.
Orphan dogs.
All the quarterbacks on the Broncos are orphan dogs.
Yeah. So I guess those are compliments. I mean, I'm sure the quarterbacks, that's a bonding experience to be called an orphan dog, 3 of them.
You think?
So I don't know. I don't give the Patriots much of a chance this year. I'll be pleasantly surprised if they win 5 games.
6 games, I think, is a blessing, and that's everything has to fall into place. Your defense is top 5 in the league, and Jacoby Brissett either has a revelation or Drake May is so good in training camp. He's the starter. It continues that great streak, but even then, your first 8 games, you have them going 0-8, which is not exactly out of the realm of possibility for New England. All right, let's get into our next topic of today's show. So the New York Knicks have made some crazy moves in the past couple of days, signing OG Anunoby to a 5-year, $212.5 million deal. That's $42.5 million per season on average, and also trading for Mikal Bridges from the Brooklyn Nets. And when it comes to Anunoby, according to Ian Begley of SNY, Anunoby would have received several max contract offers if he had hit free agency, but the former first-round pick has bought into the Knicks' vision and wanted to be a part of it. Now, the Mikal Bridges is pretty crazy, and so let's bring it up right now. So the Knicks get Mikal Bridges, and the Nets receive Bojan Bogdanovic, a bunch of first-round picks, one of them is a pick swap, another one's protected by the Milwaukee Bucks, and then another second-round pick. So you're giving up so many. I think this is 6 first-round picks, a second-round pick, and Bojan Bogdanovic, all for Mikal Bridges. Now, if we look at the starting lineup here, which is quite fascinating, let's bring that up. This is let's talk about the finals first. So the Knicks' odds actually moved drastically from being plus 1,600 to now number 2 in the NBA at plus 725. So their odds have jumped well above a lot of these top-tier teams because this move is crazy. I'll jump into the potential lineups later, but I want to start with you. Do you like or dislike these moves, these recent moves that the New York Knicks have made?
I'd say one thing about the Knicks recently, their front office has improved dramatically, right? They have done a very, very nice job. They brought in Jalen Brunson. Now they brought in Bridges. They re-signed Anunoby. They don't have the real dominant center. I'm sure they'd love to have Embiid, but he's not going to be available for a couple more years probably. But I do think they strengthened their team a lot. I like the re-signing of Anunoby. They've been very successful with him and when he's on the court. 32 games with him this past year. They were 26-6. That's great. The one thing about Anunoby you got to watch out for here is he's a little bit injury prone, right? He did get hurt after they started 12-2 with him. Both he and Julius Randle got hurt in the same game on January 27th. Anunoby had an elbow injury, and he sat out 27 of the next 30 games with that injury. And so, can he stay healthy? I think that's an issue. He wound up with a hamstring injury in the second round of the playoffs against the Pacers. where if he'd been healthy and stayed in there, I'm pretty sure the Knicks would have won that series, and they would have faced Boston in the finals. I don't think they would have gotten by Boston, given the way Boston just dominated in the playoffs. But I think they were a much better team with him on the court, and adding Bridges, acquired from the Nets. He's going to be in the starting lineup with Anunoby, Jalen Brunson, Josh Hart, and who would be who's the center? Oh, probably Hartenstein. Right. And I love the signing of Bridges for another reason. He's a Villanova grad, right? He played with the big three for the Knicks: DiVincenzo, Hart, and Brunson. So adding him, they've almost got a full starting lineup of Villanova players who all played together in college. How often does that happen? Rarely. Bridges is got a nice stat line. His career stat line: 32, almost 33 minutes a game, 14 points per game, 48% field goal percentage, 37.5% from three-pointers, 4 rebounds, 2.6 assists, 1.2 steals, and that's the career. I mean, he's gotten better, gotten better every year. In 23-24, 34 minutes a game on a team that was really very poor. They had 19, almost 20 points a game, 43.6% from the field, 37.2 from threes, 4.5 rebounds, 3.6 assists, and 1 steal. It's a pretty good stat line, particularly you put him out there on the floor with Anunoby, who has averaged almost 15 points a game last year, 4.2 rebounds in 50 games, 38% on threes. He's built himself into being a very good three-point shooter, and he's one of the premier defenders on the perimeter. So I like the team. I think they're going to be very, very formidable this year, and I do think that they will. The lineup there with the Celtics first and them second in the East is probably right.
Well, I thought about this a lot, right? $42.5 million for Anunoby. When apparently his floor was 35. It was 30, and then we heard about a couple days ago when I talked on Tuesday that it was up to 35 by that day, and I think the very, very next day they signed him to this massive deal at $42.5 million. So I actually like this move a lot. Anunoby in the regular season went 20-3 with the New York Knicks. In the month of January, him, Brunson, as well as Hartenstein, and it might have been Josh Hart as well, but I'm not sure. I think it was the top 3, though. Those first 3 players were in the top 3 of plus-minus in the month of January in the entirety of the NBA. Now, the big question, after getting Mikal Bridges, who I think is a brilliant fit, and I'll get into that in a second, as well as re-signing OG, which they need, a nice wing guy, great defender, get a couple nice threes from the corner. It's a brilliant, brilliant move. The next one is to get a big man like you mentioned. Julius Randle in the playoffs, he comes up small. His availability recently hasn't been great, injured most of the year. They need another big. Mitch Robinson, I've said this now for 2 years, and I hope it comes true. No disrespect to Mitch. The Knicks need to get off of him. Mitchell Robinson has complained about his offensive production and his participation in the offensive scheme of the Knicks for now 3 seasons. He's not a good offensive player. He's a pretty good defender and an elite rebounder. What did we see this season from another Knicks big man? When he needed to step up, he definitely did. Isaiah Hartenstein. So the first move that the Knicks need to make after these 2 moves is to trade Mitchell Robinson, and reportedly the Wizards are in contact with the Knicks about potentially trading for Robinson. Guess what? That would help you clear up a lot of money, about $14 million of cap space, which you need because you are very close to reaching that first apron and a little bit farther, $16.9 million from the second apron. That's a lot of luxury tax you got to pay because that's what the NBA is now. So, Hartenstein stepped up when he need to. You have no real need for Mitch anymore, who isn't very good offensively, does not have great passing ability. He's a great rebounder, but we saw Hartenstein, and by the way, speaking about Hartenstein, he was number 2, right? We talk about his great offensive rebounding. We're that midway through the season. He was a top-tier player in offensive rebounds. Hartenstein was number 2 in the NBA in offensive rebound percentage. I think he definitely stepped up when he needed to. He was second in offensive rating and 5th in defensive rating last season. He definitely stepped up when had to. Mikal Bridges is part of this now. What was the problem the Knicks had at the very end of their run? Availability. What's one thing Mikal Bridges brings instantly? Availability. He has not missed a single game of basketball since high school. He's played 474 straight games to begin his career. That's exactly what the Knicks need, because Tom Thibodeau will play his guys 40-plus minutes in the regular season and expect them to still produce at a high level even into the playoffs. That's not how this works. So if you get a guy like Mikal Bridges who could step in at any time, give you 33 minutes a night, why not? Put up 20 points a game or around it. He averaged 19 last season. Take a lot of the load off of Jalen Brunson and still be one of the league's better defenders. Also get a number of shots. Why not? He has great production. He plays every single game. So why not? The only problem I see with this is who's going to get the ball. It's the same thing as the Golden State Warriors when they got KD. It's one basketball. We see Mikal Bridges averaging nearly 16 field goal attempts per game. We also have Dante DiVincenzo last season, averaged a little over 12. Jalen Brunson, he takes a number of shots. He was averaging like over 20 shots a game in the playoffs. I mean, even then, Julius Randle, he was shooting 18-plus shot attempts a game. There's one basketball to go around. But I want to show this potential starting lineup, because I do think this is crazy. The potential top 10 players on the Knicks. The starting five is incredible. Jalen Brunson, Mikal Bridges, OG Anunoby, Julius Randle, and Isaiah Hartenstein. Then your bench is Miles McBride, Deuce McBride, Dante DiVincenzo, Josh Hart, Tyler Kolek, their rookie, and also Kevin McCullough Jr., also a rookie that they drafted. Two very, very good rookies. So I do think that the Knicks are, and I do think the odds are correct. The odds should be that the Knicks are number 2, because Denver still doesn't have a bench. Minnesota's very young. And also the Thunder, they did get Alex Caruso, which I think is a great pickup. But I just think the Knicks are a better team than the 3 below them.
You think they're better than the Nuggets?
I do.
I think they're number 2 in the
no
East.
Bench.
I think they're number 2 in the East, but I do think the Nuggets starting 5 is better than the Knicks starting 5.
Okay, starting 5 maybe. I'm talking about the entirety of the team here.
Yeah.
The Nuggets have no bench. You had Bruce Brown and Christian Braun. You had a couple nice pieces. You even had Reggie Jackson. You traded him away. Bruce Brown left in free agency and I think accepted his player option or team option, something like that. He accepted whatever option he has. I forget what it was. Today or yesterday. The Nuggets need to build a bench.
Yeah, well, maybe the Nuggets will make some moves.
Maybe.
We'll see.
Maybe.
Yeah. I do think the Knicks strengthen themselves. Whether they're number 2 to win the title, I question. Whether they're number 2 in the East, I agree. I think in the West, you showed the Timberwolves there and the Nuggets. The Timberwolves are an up-and-coming team as well. And I think that they, in the finals on the Western Conference, they showed their inexperience. I think that's what beat them, particularly Edwards. He's only 22 years old, so he's only going to grow. Towns is very strong, and they have Rudy Gobert, who is a beast. He's huge. So I think they've got the pieces to compete again, and I think they're disappointed they didn't get it done after they beat Denver in the first round. So I think it'll be tough for the Knicks to get to the championship round this year, particularly with the Celtics. The way they played this year, and they have everybody back. And they're focused on, now they've gotten over the hump with their first championship between Brown and Tatum. They're looking for more, and they definitely got the pieces to be able to get it done.
I think the big thing is you've got your wing defenders down now to handle Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. OG and Mikal Bridges, I think it's going to cause a lot of hell when they face up against the Celtics
next year. What about
Porzingis,
though?
Porzingis, well, then you got Hartenstein, or you got Julius Randle on him. Well, right now, Porzingis is looking like he could miss the very beginning of the season. I think the big thing with the Knicks is, age-wise, they're not old whatsoever. They're main pieces. So right now, Jalen Brunson's 27. Mikal Bridges is 27. Julius Randle's 29. Hartenstein is 26. If you want to keep Mitch in there, he's 26 as well. They have an extremely...
How old is Brunson?
I believe Brunson's 26. He's 27, excuse me. 27. So these guys are all under 30, and they're all the stars of the show.
Yeah, the Knicks have a strong bench. They'll have a strong bench with DiVincenzo and Hart coming off the bench.
I think Anunoby's also 26.
And
he's 26
Miles
years old.
McBride, he showed that he could play.
He had a couple moments. Yeah. But when you rely on him to be your bench scorer, when you rely on him to be your main scorer off the bench, that's where you have a problem. Now you have Dante DiVincenzo off the bench. Guys could shoot 40% from three at a high clip, which he showed this past season. And think about this. Yes, it is an insane amount of draft picks. Let's bring up the trade one more time. But these types of contracts and these types of draft picks, you would have given all of this for Donovan Mitchell. You got two players out of one player, basically. Because the contract and the amount of draft picks that you gave up for OG and now for Mikal Bridges is basically the same amount that you would have needed to give up for Donovan Mitchell.
You really think they had to give up Bogdanovich to make this deal happen?
I think he's a contract piece to make it all work. Yeah. I think they may trade away Bogdanovich. But I think in totality, you gave up not that much for OG based on the value, and you give up a lot for Mikal Bridges. But like I just said, you would have needed to give all of these pieces up for one player in Donovan Mitchell. You got two tremendous wing defenders, and also, OG's not going to shock you with his offensive prowess. However, in Game 2, OG was the reason why the Knicks weren't down by 20. He scored 22 points, one of only two players to score double digits in the first half against the Pacers, which they ended up winning that game by 9. He was the only reason why the Knicks weren't down by 20 plus. He scored 22 points in the first half. Kept them alive in that game. So
he's a good player.
OG, and by the way, the game was a game 7 or game 6 when the game OG came back. He started off very hot at 5 points and never played another minute after that.
He couldn't be out there with a torn hamstring.
Right, but what I'm saying is that he started off hot, made a nice 3, and then he couldn't handle it anymore and had to go out. So it's just unfortunate that way. But
can he stay healthy? I think that's the big
question.
Mikal
Mikal Bridges comes in and helps you with that. Like I said, 474 consecutive games.
Yeah.
Hasn't missed a single game since high school. Screw the defense and screw the offensive scoring. Just get another body out there. You were left with injured players and reserves at the very end at the end of the Knicks season. Mikal Bridges gives you availability. That's the one thing you could absolutely count on. He's an Iron Man. And maybe that's all the Knicks need is another half-decent to really good player just being out there on the court.
Yeah. We'll see.
All right, coming up soon, Lakers drafted Bronny James with the 55th overall pick in the 2024 NBA draft. Now he is the first father-son duo to be on the court at the exact same time, as well as we talk about CeeDee Lamb is ready to hold out, but should he? We'll talk about that right after this.
Whether you're just discovering your voice or taking your show to the next level, you know what the world needs to hear. All you have to do is say it. With Spotify, set up your podcast. Your food podcast. Your mindfulness podcast. Your never thought you'd get this far podcast. And watch those sparks fly.
I put a picture of the comment.
Drop the episode anywhere people listen. And find out who they're cooking with. Where they're finding inner balance. And why they love your show. You're already a creator. Now you can create, connect, and get paid for your passion with one single free tool. Spotify for podcasters. Talk where the world listens.
Traveling can be a nightmare. Why? You can't watch your favorite shows abroad. You can't trust public Wi-Fi spots anymore. And when you return, roaming bills kill your vibe. Unless you get a NordVPN and Saley deal. NordVPN will increase your privacy online. And Saley, a global eSIM data app, will save you from those unexpected roaming charges. Grab the 2-year NordVPN deal with 76% off and get up to 20 gigabytes Saley eSIM data gift.
Welcome back to the Harvey Hour. My name's Nathan Harvey. It is great to have you here on a Friday. As always, I'm joined alongside my dad, Stephen Harvey. Let's get into our next topic of today's show. So the Lakers will officially have the first father-son duo in NBA history after selecting Bronny James, who's obviously the son of LeBron James, with the number 55th pick in Thursday's second round of the 2024 NBA draft. What's interesting is that as per ESPN's Dave McMenamin, Rob Pelinka believes that the second-round pick could become an elite shot maker and a 3-and-D player, and this was the full quote. I think he's going to be a point-of-attack defender that could really be disruptive, with the way he guards other teams' point guards. I think he can guard multiple positions, and we've really seen growth in shooting. We really think he could turn into being an elite shot maker, just in 3-a-D player for sure. Now, a lot of actual kind of controversy came around this with Rich Paul telling teams that if you draft him, he'll be playing in Australia, which is quite interesting. But it turned out that wasn't the case. The Lakers did select him with pick 55, which turned out it's kind of obvious that the Lakers are always planning on doing that. So I want to know, are you surprised that the Lakers would actually end up drafting Bronny James at 55? And how do you think Bronny James will do in his rookie year?
I'm not surprised. I several shows we've talked about this topic, and I did say that I thought the Lakers would take him. I think it's a marketing plus, a marketing coup for the Lakers. There's never been a father-son duo in NBA history. First time. Maybe the last time, too. This isn't something that's going to come along very often. And look at those two guys. You got the pictures of them. I mean, they're about the same size. LeBron James is a beast. And
the
Bronny
graphic
James
makes it look that way. Bronny's like 6'1".
Oh, really?
LeBron James
I
is
didn't
6'9".
know that.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, they look big together there. So Bronny James will be a point guard, maybe. Is that that's the thinking for him?
Yes.
He's going to try to emphasize defense. I guess the questions I think are out there for this is, what is his fit in LA? What's it going to be? I mean, is he going to play? Is he going to excel? It's hard to know, right? What part of his game most needs to improve to the next level? We really don't know. He hasn't played that much. It's a very small sample size, even in college. At USC, he didn't really get that. He wasn't the focus of the offense, or his teammates loved him apparently, but it's inconclusive at best in determining how he'll play in the NBA. How many games will father and son play together? That's a good question. Will LeBron opt in or sign a new deal with the Lakers? I think he'll probably try to sign a new deal. It will be worth more money to him in an extra year. So I think he's going to do that. I think another question is, how will the chemistry on the team be if Bronny James doesn't turn out to be very good? Maybe they'll ship him off to the G League for a little bit, and help have him build his confidence there and then bring him back. He could be going back and forth. That's a possibility. I think the landing spot with the Lakers has a lot of anticipation, a lot of expectations, and a lot of pressure from the outside. It may not be that much pressure on the inside, depending on how the team gels around this concept and how it works out. If Bronny James turns into being a decent player, then they'll all be fine. I don't think there'll be any issue. But I think it's a crapshoot at this point, just because he really there's not much of a sample size to know how well he might be able to do. I think he'll be patient. I think he's not going to expect them to put him right in the starting lineup. I think he'll buy into the process. And as I said, maybe he'll play some games in the G League. There's not much known about him or where he will be on the depth chart. I think he'll probably be pretty low on the depth chart, although his dad is on the team, and his dad is one of the very best players to ever play in the NBA, maybe the best. And that's going to have a factor on this. I think when they're out there on the court together and Bronny makes a mistake, you think LeBron's going to yell at him on the court? I don't know. He might. It's hard to know how that's going to play out. It'll be interesting to see. The draw is father and son playing together for the first time in NBA history. If it develops into a greater fit, that will be remarkable. If it doesn't, it's still remarkable, right? It's never happened before. Father and son playing together. But he's always going to play under his father's shadow. That's something that's just going to be with him for his whole career. And the spotlight would have been big on him no matter where he's gone. But now it's bigger than ever because he's with the Lakers. He's going to be on the same court with his father. Right. It could be the most scrutinized second-round pick ever in the NBA, given who he is, who his father is, and the glamorous franchise that the LA Lakers are. You know?
Yeah.
He'll be in the summer league. That will be fun to watch, to see how he does there. I think it was worth the gamble at number 55. As you said, Rich Paul told other teams, don't don't try to draft him. We'll send him to Australia if you try to do that. And I think it's going to be fun to watch. I'll be watching. I think a lot of people will be. So it's a good draw. It's a good thing for the Lakers. How will it work out in the locker room? How will it gel on the court? How will father and son do together? All questions to be answered in the future. What's your take?
Well, I think it's very, very difficult to tell right now because we haven't seen him play a lot of basketball. He joined midseason at USC and did not perform very well. But I think coming in midseason for any sport, on any team, at really any level, is very, very difficult. But he did only average 4.8 points, 2.8 rebounds, 2.1 assists per game. He only played about 19 minutes in those 25 games. And his shooting-wise was not good at all. 26.7% from three and 36% from the floor. That's not really that great. However, let's add a little bit more context to it. In the NBA Combine, he did shoot 19 of 25 from three. Maybe it was he just needs more reps, and at the NBA Combine, he got more practice in because we have to remember he did have that health scare of cardiac arrest, which actually sidelined him, and that was the reason why he did not play the rest of that season, the beginning of that season for USC. So we'll see how he sees. We'll see if he ever gets into the NBA in year one. I think that's the big thing. But I do think that he will be in the G League for 1, if not 2 years, because I think LeBron will opt out of his player option, which is about $60 million. I think he'll sign a 3-year, $161, I believe it is. Whatever the 3-year max is for LeBron James, he'll sign that. And what's kind of funny is, if Bronny James is in the G League for 1 or 2 years, and let's say it's 2 years, by that third year, LeBron will be on the last year of his contract, and this is completely speculating here. LeBron James on the last year of his contract. Bronny James making his true Laker debut, and Bryce James will be able to actually be in that draft. So he could have two sons on the same team, all having their debuts together. Could be, probably not though. But when it comes to Bronny James, I think it's tough. It's very, very tough, and you actually said it. Until he makes a name for himself, which is very, very difficult when your father is, in my opinion, the greatest basketball player of all time, you will be living under his shadow. And it's very difficult to make your own name for yourself when that is indeed your father, who you will be eventually playing with. Whether that's game one and then he gets sent to the G League or whatever the case may be. It'll be very difficult to make a name for yourself when you're playing alongside, arguably, the greatest basketball player of all time. So I think based on a development part of it, he'll need a lot of work. I think the problem with the Lakers is you have a massive spotlight because you are a very historic franchise. Up until a couple weeks ago, you were tied with the Celtics for the most championships in NBA history. Now the Celtics have a one finals win lead away from you. However, you're like the Dallas Cowboys of the NBA. You're always expected to make a very deep playoff run, if not make the NBA Finals, and if not win it, even when your team is not that great. I think another part that's very, very difficult for Bronny James himself is his coaching staff and his development is not going to be at the tip top of the Lakers' priorities, I think. Because I don't think JJ Redick will do a tremendous job. He'll need a very great staff in order for the Lakers to succeed, in order for Bronny James to excel at a relatively rapid level. I think Dan Hurley, who they actually strongly wanted, but I guess not strong enough to really pry him away from UConn and pry him away from Hurley trying to go back-to-back with UConn for national championship wins, for him to be the head coach of the Lakers, because I think if Dan Hurley was the coach of the Lakers, I think Bronny could have a very decent shot, maybe towards the end of the year or hell, even the very beginning, to be playing for the Los Angeles Lakers, to be suiting up in the yellow and gold and be playing during the NBA regular season. I think Dan Hurley, with the way that he's coached up UConn players, people come from the transfer portal, coming to UConn and winning basically instantly, I think that could have translated. And also UConn's offensive scheme is very similar to the NBA. Spacing, outside shooting, couple big men playing low, interior defense, getting the rebounds. I think that would have worked out beautifully for the Lakers. But you have JJ Redick, who I will give credit. JJ Redick was a pretty decent perimeter shooter. So maybe that could help Bronny in his 26.7% three-point percentage from college. But I do think because of the spotlight and the fact that your dad is arguably the greatest NBA player of all time, that shadow is monumentous. And
Monumentous.
Yeah. What?
Is that a word?
I think so.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it is.
I'm going to look it up when I afterwards.
I'll look it up in a second. I do think that because the shadow is so big, it'll be very difficult for Bronny to come out of that until maybe 5 years from now, 3, 4, 5 years from now, where maybe LeBron is about to retire. Then you kind of have to prove yourself. Otherwise, I kind of agree with you. Because of the fact that he is LeBron James's son, if he's a complete bust, it won't be like the normal late-round picks of the NBA draft where those players just fizzle out, over a couple years. I think, for instance, Michael Jordan Jr.
Yeah.
fizzled out completely.
Yeah.
And there's a little bit bigger spotlight than just an average NBA player who gets picked late in the second round.
Okay. I'm going to disagree with you. I don't think that Bronny James will spend 2 years in the G League before he plays with his dad. I think he'll be on the court with his dad within the first 5 games of the season because this is too big a marketing thing to let go of. And the Lakers know it, and the NBA knows it, and everybody wants it. They let him drop to number 55 so he could be drafted to play with his father. It's one of the big marquee things for this season coming up, and you're going to see it early on. And I don't think they'll be waiting. Now, if he turns out to be a bust and he plays poorly, he turns the ball over a lot, he gets beat on defense, he is a minus points every time he's out there on the court, then maybe he's shipped off to the G League for a while. But I bet he'll be back before the end of the season if that happens. And I do think he'll play early on, maybe not for more than 2 minutes a game or something like that. But he will be out there with his dad early on in the season. It's just too big a thing to let go. They're going to have to do it. The television is going to want it. They're paying big bucks for the rights to these games, and they're going to demand it. And you'll see it happen.
Well, first off, let me just clarify. Monumentous is a word.
It is.
Just looked it up. Second, the problem, and let's talk about another father-son duo that played, not in basketball, because this is the first one, but in sports, is Bronny James, Ken Griffey Jr., the NBA's version of Ken Griffey Jr., because Ken Griffey Jr. was very good.
I doubt it.
Was very good.
He was good very young, too, at 19 years old.
Right.
He was a great player.
Bronny James ain't that. So Ken Griffey Jr. made a name for himself because he was so good. And he also played alongside his father.
Yeah.
So I don't think Bronny James is that. So he'll need to wait a little while. He'll need a lot of growth and a lot of development in order to eventually make a name for himself. It's going to be very difficult because of the fact that you're the inaugural father-son duo to play together in the NBA. You're setting records here, and it's in a Lakers uniform with the Lakers historic franchise behind your back, with LeBron James, the greatest player in NBA history, arguably, but in my opinion, yes. That's who your father is. That's who you're playing alongside.
It's a lot of pressure for a young guy.
And you have first-time head coach.
A lot of pressure for a young kid.
And you have the expectations of J.J. Redick, who was in podcasts with LeBron James, which he said he was going to stop doing. But he's prone to being open to this criticism and taking, sometimes taking it on the chin, the criticism online, being aware of that. That's your head coach who will get massive scrutiny because he hasn't coached. He's been a volunteer coach for, I think, a 4th grade team. I think that's what the picture is that's going viral, I think, early last week. He hasn't coached anything, really. This would be his first job. He goes from a volunteer coach to being the head coach of the Los Angeles Lakers.
Yeah.
And they're still expected to go out and win several games.
They're going to put a lot of other coaching support behind him on the bench.
You have to. You straight up have to. Otherwise, it'll just be a crap show. And Bronny James, you know what? I hope, just because it's great for business, it's great for ratings, Bronny James is a tremendous player. The realistic outlook of that, though, is he needs a lot of work. Will he be able to work effectively with that massive spotlight on his back? I think maybe.
Yeah.
I think because LeBron James is his dad, teaching lessons and stuff like that. I think that, I don't know if there'll be, a moment where LeBron pulls a J.R. Smith in the NBA Finals when he was playing with the Cavs and just gets very upset with him like that. I don't think it'll be like that. I think it'll be on the bench, arm around, giving a talk, something like that.
Yeah.
I don't think it'll be a complete outburst.
I think it'll be tough for him because he's going to come in and play one of the toughest positions, point guard.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to be very smart. You have to be a great athlete. You got to be in sync with your teammates, right? To be an effective point guard, you got to be able to distribute the ball. You got to be able to shoot the ball. You got to be able to defend. It's going to be a lot. It's going to be a lot for him. I think they say he's a 3 and D, right? A 3-point shooter and a defensive player.
That's what they want him to be. Yeah.
They want him to be that. So
also, I'll say this: the Clippers, Minnesota, Phoenix, and Toronto were the 4 teams that were seriously interested in drafting Bronny. So those were probably the teams that Rich Paul said, nope, he's going to Australia if you select them.
Yeah.
So we'll have to wait and see. But the Lakers, as well as the NBA, their ratings and Lakers ticket prices just went up a lot of money. They were already massive. Now they went up a little bit more. All right, let's get into our final topic of today's show. So, Cowboys star receiver CeeDee Lamb is willing to hold out until he gets a new contract extension. According to the Dallas Morning News' Calvin Watkins, Lamb is not expected to show up for training camp unless he has an extension in place. This would not be a stunning move because CeeDee Lamb missed mini camp, which drew a little bit over $100,000 fine. So I want to know, do you think that this is a good or a bad decision for CeeDee to hold out?
I'm not sure it makes much difference one way or the other because it's $50K for every day you hold out on a regular training camp. But in a rookie contract, if it's being renegotiated, those fines can be waived. So he'll hold out. They'll run up a big fine. He'll figure out a deal with them, maybe. I don't know. We'll see. And then they'll waive his fines and he'll get his deal. But he doesn't have much leverage in holding out unless the Cowboys think, wow, if he's not out here practicing with Dak Prescott, the chemistry is going to get screwed up. And that was one of our best go-to situations for us all year long. And CeeDee Lamb was one of the top receivers in the NFL last year. So if they worry about that, then they're going to want to try to get a deal done with him. But the timing is an issue, and we talked about this in one of the prior shows, that it sounds like the Cowboys want to do Prescott first. And Prescott's a tough negotiator, even though he says the money doesn't mean anything to him. It means a lot to his agents, and he's given his agents full authority to negotiate a deal. His first deal took a long time to get done. And if this one takes a long time to get done, then CeeDee Lamb will be without an extension when training camp starts, and he'll be holding out. So that's not going to be a good situation for them. So I think he will hold out. He doesn't have much leverage because he doesn't have a no trade clause or a no franchise tag clause. The precedent is in a rookie contract that the fines get waived. Nick Bosa got his fines waived. Zach Martin was the last one that held out for the Cowboys, and he wasn't a rookie contract, so they couldn't waive his fines, but he got a $36.85 million guaranteed deal, and they guaranteed the last 2 years of the contract. So I think the Cowboys, in the end, they may look like they're playing hardball with their players, but they wind up making them whole. And I'm not sure why they didn't do a deal with CeeDee Lamb last year. They could have gotten him for a lot cheaper, and now he wants Justin Jefferson money, and the bar has been set very high with Jefferson, A.J. Brown, and St. Brown for the Lions getting huge contracts and lots of guaranteed money. You look at Jefferson, he has $26 million more than any other wide receiver in his contract, and $36 million more fully guaranteed money, and $110 million of guaranteed money. So, and $140 million deal for 4 years. You've got the deals up there, and I'm sure you'll want to go through them when you do your analysis here. I think that the Cowboys need to get these deals done. They can probably delay Micah Parsons' deal until next year, although that's risky because he'll be in his contract year then, and the price tag is going to be even higher. They have 3 players that at their position can demand the highest pay of any player at that position in the league. Dak Prescott, the benchmark there is $55 million a year right now. That's $15 million more than his current contract per year. And if they don't sign him and he goes free agent and he goes away, that's $40 million of dead money, if not extended. So my prediction is the Cowboys are going to get it done for CeeDee Lamb and Dak Prescott. They're going to have to hurry up here to get those deals done so that the players aren't unhappy and they don't have any holdouts here. I think they'll wait to get Micah Parsons' deal done next year, but I think all three of them will wind up getting done, and it's going to cost Jerry Jones more money than he could have spent if he tried to get them done a little earlier and thought about it a little more carefully last year.
Well, yeah, I that's absolutely, that was my take on Tuesday. Jerry Jones is patient, but he's also impatient. He's way too patient with contracts and impatient when it comes to wanting to win Super Bowls, so much so he moves a lot of pieces around. So what's funny is I actually want to start with the Jerry Jones comment he made earlier this year. So he told the Dallas Morning News, and I read this on Tuesday, after Amon-Ra St. Brown as well as A.J. Brown had their contracts. He said, bottom line, and this is a direct quote, bottom line is I haven't had time to think about them, especially with those receivers. Now, nobody was moving too fast to get involved. Now, I just don't care to or even will express any thoughts about the contract or the impact of the contract. Well, now, you might want to think about it, because CeeDee Lamb is now holding out, and it looks like it's going to cost you probably a lot more than you expected it to. And the problem with waiting on a lot of these players is Dak Prescott needs a contract, CeeDee Lamb needs a contract, Micah Parsons needs a contract, and your head coach Mike McCarthy needs a contract. All these players are towards the very end of their deal, with CeeDee Lamb and Dak Prescott being on the last years of their deals. So it's very difficult for Jerry Jones to make up his mind about who's worth it. Now, I think just based on how the NFL is, Micah Parsons will end up getting his contract last. The Cowboys already announced, or reports say, that Dak Prescott is the priority, which means that CeeDee Lamb is not going to get any real talking, any real progress when it comes to his contract extension until Dak Prescott gets his. Now, Dak Prescott, based on what he wants, is reportedly, according to Ian Rappaport, $60 million per year because, let's look at some of these crazy quarterback contracts. Trevor Lawrence is now tied with Joe Burrow for $55 million a year, each of a 5-year, $275 million deal. CeeDee Lamb wants Justin Jefferson money, so about $35 million a year. Well, personally, I don't think CeeDee Lamb is Justin Jefferson. Do I think he is near or around A.J. Brown? I think he showed it last season with the fact that he had 1,749 yards and 12 touchdowns. I think that he was a tremendous wide receiver last year, a bona fide wide receiver, one, and top 5, if not top 3 last year with Justin Jefferson being hurt. And also Devontae Adams having Aiden O'Connell and Jimmy Garoppolo and even Brian Hoyer as his quarterback. So I think that CeeDee Lamb was arguable top 3, but definitely top 5. I think a lot of people probably would put him in the top 3. So the problem with CeeDee Lamb getting paid is Jerry Jones. And I guess based on what the reports say, could be also Dak Prescott, because the Cowboys are focusing on Dak Prescott first. So I think when it comes to holding out, I think a lot of Cowboys, if you have a problem with your contract, hold out. Because I do think if CeeDee Lamb hits the open market, he will be making $30+ million a year to any team who signs him. Or Jerry Jones could sign him. Now, it will cost you probably $33 million a year, because that's what CeeDee Lamb is looking for, and he will hold out. But the problem is, if you do want to keep him, I don't think CeeDee Lamb is moving anywhere. I don't. Same with Brandon Ayuk. Let Brandon Ayuk do whatever he wants. Except the difference is, the Cowboys need CeeDee Lamb. The 49ers don't need Brandon Ayuk. I think it's a flip when it comes to who will eventually cave. I think that when it comes to the 49ers, they won't, because they don't necessarily need Ayuk. When it comes to the Cowboys, they desperately need CeeDee Lamb. And what's also funny is that we have to remember what the Cowboys did way back when they got rid of Amari Cooper. Because the whole point, according to Jerry Jones, the reason why they got off of Amari Cooper was because a payday for CeeDee Lamb was eventually going to need to be placed. Well, now's the time. You got off Amari Cooper, and now here's CeeDee Lamb. You already had a problem with CeeDee Lamb's contract. Amari Cooper's contract. So you got him out of there. But now it's up for you to now pay CeeDee Lamb what he's worth. And I think the fact that he got better and better as the years progress, going from 935 to 1102 to 1359 to now 1749 in yards per season. And he also had, this is crazy, 181 targets last year. Caught 135 of those. CeeDee Lamb, and it's crazy to think, Brandon Cooks is your wide receiver too. If CeeDee Lamb holds out, and if Jerry Jones won't fold, which I think will be a massive mistake, let's say he holds out for the regular season, for at least week 1, Brandon Cooks is your starting wide receiver.
Yeah, that's a real problem for the Cowboys. They got to have CeeDee Lamb. I predict he will get Justin Jefferson annual salary money for 4 years, but
35.
But the guarantee will be somewhere between what AJ Brown got and what JJ got. He won't get the same contract as Jefferson. His guaranteed money will be smaller, but his annual salary will be very close.
I think we have to acknowledge that since 2020, CeeDee Lamb has the 5th most yards of any wide receiver. He has made a massive impact and has really kept because Ezekiel Elliott was not Ezekiel Elliott of the past, especially late in his tenure with the Cowboys. CeeDee Lamb was really the only true shining star of that offense. And now, well, I guess Michael Gallup had a couple moments, but I think in totality, CeeDee Lamb was the true shining star, especially recently. And without him, I think Dak Prescott spirals out of control because Dak Prescott just had the best year of his career. He has a lot of leverage because he has
1,749 yards.
It's crazy.
It's close. That's close to 2,000 yards. I mean,
he's one of the top candidates to break that record.
Yeah.
So I think Dak Prescott, because he had the best year of his career, had the highest passer rating of his career, highest completion percentage. He led the NFL with 36 touchdowns last year. I think he has a lot of leverage because he has a no trade clause, no franchise tag clause, and he just had a tremendous year. CeeDee Lamb, all he has is the fact that he can get the fines voided if the Cowboys want. That is really the only leverage he's got. And I guess on a technicality standpoint, he could say, who else do you have behind me? This ain't the 49ers. Brandon Cooks, while he's an okay receiver, he's not going to bring you to the promised land. He's not going to lead this team with 1,500 yards and 10-plus touchdowns. It just isn't going to happen. I could do that with my eyes closed, basically. So I think just the fact that he could get his fines voided if the Cowboys want, and depth chart-wise, that's it. Otherwise, he's got nothing. They could trade him, franchise tag him. They could do whatever they want.
I don't think they're going to trade him. There's no way they're trading him. They're going to get him a deal. It's not going to have this much guaranteed money as Justin Jefferson's got. It's going to be more than AJ Brown got. But the average salary is going to be very close to Jefferson, and he'll take it.
I mean, that's some crazy money there.
Look at Amon-Ra St. Brown, man. He did okay, too.
He's gotten a lot of money.
Yeah.
More than Tyreek Hill.
Yeah.
Tyreek Hill wants a new contract, too, after seeing all these contracts go up. So, yeah, I think that does wrap it up for today's show. We thank you always for the constant support. My name's Nathan Harvey. That's my dad, Stephen Harvey. We have been the co-host of the Harvey Hour. Catch us Tuesday, 6:30 p.m. Eastern, right here on YouTube.
It was a momentous show, and good night, Grandpa.
Traveling can be